Hello everyone, welcome back to the Taqdeer Award for Labor Welfare 2022 Awareness Session. My name is Sue Kanakri, the co-author of the Taqdeer Award Framework. In this presentation, I will try to be your internal advisor to help you to have a better understanding of the award framework and requirements, advise your company on how to better prepare for the award submission, and share some suggestions and tips on how to avoid the common problems and mistakes made by the previous award participants. In this session, I will present to you the Taqdeer Award Framework and its criteria. The award framework and criteria were designed and developed based on national and international references, legislations, and best-in-class performance standards. Like all Dubai government strategic initiatives, the Taqdeer Award Framework does not only reflect the UAE labor laws, government regulations, and international labor standards, but also emphasizes the human side of labor care. In this session, we will present to you the Taqdeer Award Framework and criteria. The award framework and criteria were designed and developed based on national and international references, legislations, and best-in-class performance standards. In this presentation, we will be covering the following key topics. Overview of the Taqdeer Award Framework and criteria. Criteria 1 Essential Fundamentals and its 5 sub-criteria. Criteria 2 Culture and Work Environment and its 5 sub-criteria. Criteria 3 Labor Results and its 2 sub-criteria. As explained earlier, the Taqdeer framework was designed and implemented to meet the test of time. The dynamic nature of the framework and its criteria makes them suitable for local and multinational companies and applicable to various labor-intensive industries. The Taqdeer Award Framework evaluation score consists of 1,000 points, spread over 3 main criteria, 12 sub-criteria, and 34 criteria elements. It covers each aspect of relations between the laborers and their employers. It is a great blueprint for enhancing labor productivity and workers' quality of life and prosperity. At the lower section of the framework structure is the foundation and the first criterion, essential fundamentals, which count for 250 points. The middle section of the framework is the second criterion, culture and work environment. Again, the 250 points are spread over 5 sub-criteria, covering labor relations, communication and feedback, justice and transparency, creativity and innovation, as well as rules and regulations. Finally, on the upper part of the framework structure, you will see Criterion 3, the labor results. Due to its importance, this criterion was allocated 500 points. These points are divided equally among 2 sub-criteria, labor perception and labor performance indicators. Your company's submission document shall be based on the Taqdeer Award Framework to cover each sub-criteria and criteria elements, supported by relevant evidence. Next, we will be looking at each sub-criteria element in detail. There are 5 sub-criteria under Criteria 1, the essential fundamentals. These are the foundation and pillars of the framework. The first sub-criteria under Criterion 1 is the labor policies and strategies. The award be looking at you as a participating company. Do you have the right policies, strategies, systems, and procedures in place? The second sub-criteria is facilities and infrastructure. Here we will be looking at what kind of accommodation you provide. Labor camp or staff accommodation? What type of recreation and entertainment facilities do you provide to your employees? What kind of transportation system do you have? The third sub-criteria is occupational health and safety. Here we will be looking at the type of medical care received by your employees. Do you have the occupational safety policy, procedures, and guidelines in place? Do you communicate and train your employees on those policies and guidelines? Do you provide your laborers with the right safety tools, clothing, and PPEs to carry out their tasks in a safe manner? The next sub-criteria is the laborer's security. Here we focus on 2 elements, labor camp security and job security. Then the final sub-criteria from the essential fundamentals is recruitment and wages. Generally, most of the participating companies are doing well in the essential fundamentals, as all companies need to have the basic policies and systems to operate in compliance with the labor laws and government regulations. Let's start with the first sub-criteria 1.1 Labor Policies and Strategies. This sub-criteria address the importance for the participating companies to prepare, document, approve, review and develop special HR policies and strategies for their workforce covering various categories of skilled and unskilled laborers and technicians. The 50 points are equally distributed to cover the following 5 key criteria elements. 1.1.1 Equal opportunities. 1.1.2 Forced labor. 1.1.3 Labor rights and responsibilities. 1.1.4 Corporate social responsibility. And 1.1.5 Code of ethics. We shall look into each key element to see what it covers and what assessors might look for. While explaining each sub-criteria element, I will also share with you what assessors might look for in this specific performance area, so companies can better prepare their award submission documents and supporting evidence, taking into consideration the assessor's point of view. On the upper left corner is the Team Power International Cycle of Excellence, which we developed 20 years ago, when our focus was helping organizations to implement the EFQM-based Business Excellence Framework. The Cycle of Excellence Framework, an enhanced version of the PDCA cycle, consists of 5 interrelated elements. Element 1 aims at the leader, who will take the initiative and be accountable for the results. In the lead element, the person in charge is expected to lead by example, focus on vision, be innovative, and be self-motivated. Element 2 is to decide on the direction, expected outcomes, and positive impact. The driving force of the think element is the value proposition we provide to stakeholders. Element 3 is to draw the roadmap. In the plan element, our focus is directed at integrating approaches, resources, scenarios, and structures needed for success. Element 4 is to execute the established blueprint. The deploy element focused on how to mobilize and effectively utilize resources and competencies driven by a true sense of urgency. Element 5 is aiming at reviewing the results and achieved outcomes. The evaluate element determines the level of success and identifies any gaps that need to be addressed. This will help refine the planning and deployment of any future undertaking and will lead to starting a new cycle. Please do keep the cycle of excellence in mind when you develop your award submission, prepare for the site visit, and interact with assessors. 1.1.1 Equal opportunities. When it comes to equal opportunities, what do the award office and assessors expect to find? How do you address equal opportunities among all your employees? When you prepare for the Taqdeer award submission, what do you need to highlight in this section? This sub-criterion element addresses the need to provide policies and strategies supportive of equal opportunities among all employees, which include male, female, full-time, part-time, temporary or flexible workers, in recruitment, wages, benefits, incentives, end of services, and the right for both genders in receiving the necessary training and career development opportunities. Participating companies shall have the recruitment policy in place and provide equal opportunity to their employees without any discrimination regarding race, gender, color, religion, national origin, ethnic origin, or disability. The participating companies shall support their submission document by providing clear evidence. Such evidence may include documented and approved policies, procedures, agreements, action plans, rules and regulations, guidelines, processes, etc. Please keep in mind that the items highlighted in yellow are not a checklist for all companies. Depending on the industry, your corporate strategy, and business priorities, each company may adopt unique policies, systems, and business practices to address this focus area. Therefore, you should choose the most relevant documented evidence to support your award submission. Taking into account the COVID-19 and the recent changes to the UAE labor law, Federal Decree Law No. 33 of 2021 took effect on February 2, 2022, the assessors might also ask additional questions such as: How does your company ensure that the latest UAE labor law is incorporated into your company policies and systems and implemented throughout the organization? For the past 2 years, what impact did COVID-19 have on your policies, procedures, and practices concerning equal opportunities? If your organization has implemented new policies, systems, and adopted best practices during the COVID-19 pandemic, please do highlight those in your award submission to gain extra points. 1.1.2 Forced labor. Forced labor is covered by international regulations and human rights laws. This sub-criterion element addresses the need to have in place labor policies and strategies that ensure participating companies do not force laborers to work against their will, by using the threat of punishment, or due to accumulated debt, retention of identity papers, or threats of denunciation to immigration authorities. Companies shall ensure that the employees are not performing any work involuntarily and under the menace of any penalty. For example, are you forcing your employees to perform work without their consent that is fundamentally different from their job description, as per the employment contract? Do you force your laborers to work overtime more than 144 hours every 3 weeks? If the company is employing a recruitment agency to recruit staff on the company's behalf, then it needs to ensure their overseas recruitment agencies do not take unfair charges and recruitment fees from the laborers before coming to Dubai. In the past, many workers have to borrow money or sell their properties back home to pay the huge recruitment fees. Many of them have to work 6 or 12 months just to pay the debts accumulated to come to work in Dubai. Assessors may also ask pandemic-related questions, such as, for the past 2 years, what impact did COVID-19 have on your policies, procedures, and practices concerning forced labor? The participating companies shall support their submission document by providing clear evidence. Such evidence may include documented and approved policies, procedures, recruitment agreements, action plans, rules and regulations, guidelines, processes, etc. 1.1.3 Labor rights and duties. This sub-criterion element addresses the need to have in place labor policies and strategies which ensures mutual benefits for both the company and its workforce. Such policies will address the rights, duties, and responsibilities of various labor categories. Here are some of the rights based on the labor law: end-of-service gratuity, compassionate leave, holidays, overtime pay, study leave, etc. All laborers shall be informed of their rights and obligations through various approved communication channels, such as job descriptions, memos, guidelines, etc. Do you explain to your laborers their rights and contractual obligations before signing the employment contracts? Do you keep them informed of the latest changes related to their jobs, entitlements, and duties? To ensure effectiveness, companies shall choose the most appropriate languages and communication channels. If the workers do not have access to email, then it might be better to choose other methods to communicate instead of sending official emails. Do your female employees know that as per the labor law, companies shall provide the rights of pregnant women to receive 60 days of maternity leave, the first 45 days with full pay while the next 15 days with half pay, and dedicated breastfeeding hours for up to 6 months post-delivery. In addition, the company shall also grant the employees, for both male and female employees, 5 days of parental leave to look after their babies. Such leave must be utilized within 6 months of the child's birth. Assessors may also ask pandemic-related questions such as, for the past 2 years, what impact did COVID-19 have on your policies, procedures, and practices concerning labor rights and duties? The participating companies shall support their submission document by providing clear evidence. Such evidence may include documented and approved policies, procedures, recruitment agreements, action plans, rules and regulations, guidelines, processes, job descriptions, specifications, etc. 1.1.4 Corporate social responsibility. This sub-criterion element addressed the necessity for participating companies to have a special independent policy that ensures the rights and guidelines for laborers' involvement in community events and activities that contribute to UAE economic development, lead to the improvement of labor standard of living, and achieve happiness by instilling in them the self-confidence to become an integral part of the community. Participating company shall demonstrate, by objective evidence, its role as a good corporate citizen and its positive contribution to the Dubai community. Many companies we assessed do have corporate social responsibility practices in place. However, the activities are carried out mainly by the managerial staff, rather than involve the frontline employees and laborers. Please keep in mind that CSR and volunteering activities shall not be forced on laborers without their consent. For example, one of the companies brought their workers to the beach during the off day. The workers were happy that the company is taking them for a weekend beach party. However, to their surprise, upon arrival, the HR manager distributed cleaning tools and told them that it was time to clean the beach. Or taking the workers on a bus to the hospital, when they thought the company is taking them for a free health checkup, but turns out that they are forced to go for the blood donation. Now, let me share with you some good examples of corporate social responsibility that I experienced. One of the participating companies that we assessed during the second award cycle explained to us their CSR practices. For the past 14 years, this construction company has been providing free services for a school for children with special needs. Their workers will be taking volunteering tasks to help the school in the building and maintenance services. For example, the carpenters will go to the school to help them repair school furniture, while painters help the school repaint their walls and classrooms each year. This company does not only carry out CSR activities in the UAE community, they also provide financial contribution and volunteering work in building local schools, hospitals, water wells, etc. In countries such as India, Nepal, and the Philippines, where the majority of their laborers come from. Assessors may also ask pandemic-related questions, such as, for the past 2 years, what impact did COVID-19 have on your policies, procedures, and practices concerning corporate social responsibility? What guidelines were issued to your laborers to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in your premises and local community? The participating companies shall support their submission document by providing clear evidence. Such evidence may include documented and approved CSR policies and plans, procedures, systems and processes, rules and regulations, guidelines, action plans, CSR budgets, etc. 1.1.5 Labor Code of Conduct. This sub-criterion element stipulates that labor policies and strategies shall address the necessity for the participating companies to have a special code of ethics or code of conduct that the entire workforce, including laborers, employees, engineers, technicians, and management, all abide by. Additionally, the workforce shall be informed about the contents of the code of conduct through the use of relevant languages and via various approved communication channels throughout the organization. Language and method of communication is very important. For example, if the workers and labor force are mainly from Indian subcontinent countries, then the code of conduct shall be translated to the language, such as Hindi, Urdu, etc., the workers would understand. If the workers do not have computer or email access, then it is not a good idea to publish the code of conduct via email. Instead, the HR team could communicate the same through the employee handbook or via employee onboarding sessions. Assessors may also ask pandemic-related questions, such as, for the past 2 years, what impact did COVID-19 have on your policies, procedures, and practices concerning the Labor Code of Conduct? The participating companies shall support their submission document by providing clear evidence. Such evidence may include documented and approved policies, rules and regulations, professional conduct, code of ethics, guidelines, performance consequences, etc. 1.2 Facilities and infrastructure. This sub-criteria address the importance for the participating companies to provide suitable facilities and infrastructure that will secure workers' human dignity and enhance their welfare in order to improve their work performance. Examples of such include improving the laborers' health and morale by providing suitable living places, healthcare, and regular meals that in return will improve productivity. 50 points are equally distributed to cover the following 3 key elements. First, labor housing. Second, recreation and entertainment facilities. Third, transport. We shall look into each of the above key elements to see what it covers and what assessors might look for. (1.2.1) Labor accommodations. This sub-criterion element addresses the necessity for the participating companies to provide their laborers with suitable and adequate accommodation in line with the government regulations and requirements to protect workers' well-being and humanity, lead to improving the living standard and achieving satisfaction. Here is a potential list of items that the assessors might look for in your labor accommodation. As an employer, which kind of accommodation do you provide to your workers? Do you have a labor camp? In your labor camp or accommodation, do you provide suitable and adequate living space for your workers that comply with the government regulations and requirements, meeting the minimum square meter per person? What kind of ventilation and air conditioning systems are installed in your accommodation? Did you take any actions to reduce the spread of the virus and lower the risk of COVID-19 exposure in the indoor space? How is the furniture, fixtures, and lighting in the accommodation? Are they well maintained? Are the sanitary facilities being sufficient to accommodate the use of all residents? Do your workers have to wake up very early and queue for hours to take a shower and get ready for work? Which kind of cleaning and disinfection services do you provide? Do you have on-site medical or healthcare services? How about the prayer room? Do you provide free meals or catering services? Or do you provide cooking and storage facilities to allow the workers to prepare their food? What kind of laundry service do you provide? Some provide laundry services, while others provide washing machines for the workers to wash their clothes. Finally, do you provide free fast internet access in your accommodation so your employees could connect with their families and friends online? Here are some of the questions that the assessors might ask. What preventive measures did your organization take to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in your labor accommodation? What good practices do you have related to labor accommodation? Please highlight those in your award submission. 1.2.1 Labor accommodations. This sub-criterion element addresses the necessity for the participating companies to provide their laborers with suitable and adequate accommodation in line with the government regulations and requirements to protect workers' well-being and humanity, lead to improving the living standard and achieving satisfaction. Here is a potential list of items that the assessors might look for in your labor accommodation. As an employer, which kind of accommodation do you provide to your workers? Do you have a labor camp? In your labor camp or accommodation, do you provide suitable and adequate living space for your workers that comply with the government regulations and requirements, meeting the minimum square meter per person? What kind of ventilation and air conditioning systems are installed in your accommodation? Did you take any actions to reduce the spread of the virus and lower the risk of COVID-19 exposure in the indoor space? How is the furniture, fixtures, and lighting in the accommodation? Are they well maintained? Are the sanitary facilities being sufficient to accommodate the use of all residents? Do your workers have to wake up very early and queue for hours to take a shower and get ready for work? Which kind of cleaning and disinfection services do you provide? Do you have on-site medical or healthcare services? How about the prayer room? Do you provide free meals or catering services? Or do you provide cooking and storage facilities to allow the workers to prepare their food? What kind of laundry service do you provide? Some provide laundry services, while others provide washing machines for the workers to wash their clothes. Finally, do you provide free fast internet access in your accommodation so your employees could connect with their families and friends online? Here are some of the questions that the assessors might ask. What preventive measures did your organization take to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in your labor accommodation? What good practices do you have related to labor accommodation? Please highlight those in your award submission. 1.2.3 Transport. This sub-criterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to provide suitable and safe transport needed to mobilize laborers from the accommodation or labor camp to their workplace and back. Employees shall have accessibility to the transport services. The transportation shall be available, so workers do not need to wait for hours for the company bus to arrive. What assessors might look for? Again, on the right side, we have listed some common items and good practices. As the award participating company, how do you ensure the transportation provided will be safe and accident-free? How are the conditions of the vehicles? Are the drivers been trained on road safety and defensive driving? How do you ensure that the buses are clean and well maintained? Who is taking care of the maintenance? Do you install air conditioning or cooling fans based on government rules and regulations on all the buses? Some companies provide cold drinking water units on the bus during the summer for their workers. Is there any first aid box on the bus? Do you have sufficient seats to accommodate all the workers? During COVID-19, the government introduced new rules for bus seating capacity. How do you cope with the new rules and ensure available transport and seats for your workers? How is the waiting time? Do they wait for the bus, or the bus is always ready for the employees? Do you provide shuttle bus services during the weekends and holidays to access the city? Again, each company may have its unique practice when it comes to transportation. Please highlight your transport practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. Some companies do not have their own buses and drivers, they outsource the services to RTA-approved suppliers. That's perfectly fine. However, the company shall ensure that the company deliver the transportation services based on your requirements and government regulations and standards. You carry out audits and inspections of their services regularly to ensure their compliance. 1.3 Occupational Health and Safety. This sub-criteria address the importance of the participating companies to ensure the occupational health and safety of laborers, which reflect positively on productivity through the provision of healthcare, adequate systems, and a work environment free of hazards, viruses, threats, and accidents. Companies shall continuously spread awareness towards occupational safety, including topics on safety at work and job requirements. The companies shall also provide workers with safety clothing, tools, equipment, machines, and modern techniques. 50 points are equally distributed to cover the following 4 key elements. 1.3.1 Medical Care. 1.3.2 Occupational Safety Policy, Procedures, and Guidelines. 1.3.3 OHS Training and Awareness and 1.3.4 Safety Clothing and Tools. We shall look into each of the above key elements to see what it covers and what assessors might look for. So, in Criteria 1.3 Occupational Health and Safety, what will you focus on? And what would assessors look for? 1.3.1 Medical Care. This sub-criterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to provide their employees with special general and preventive health care and medical services, such as vaccines, medical tests and treatment, medicines, injections, outpatient and inpatient healthcare services. The HR and concerned departments shall keep employees' records to keep track and monitor their health. For example, during the recent pandemic, people with certain chronic diseases or age groups may face higher risks with the COVID-19 virus. So, could your company easily identify those high-risk groups and take extra prevention and medical care for them? Based on government rules, all companies shall provide their employees with medical insurance to relieve the burden of medical expenses from the workers. The difference between a 3-star company and a 5-star company is that most of the 5-star companies provided comprehensive health insurance for all employees instead of the basic insurance package. They may also have a special first aid room with nurses or doctors on site to look after their people. In addition, based on the labor law, participating companies shall also provide sick leave, accident leave, disability leave, or work-related injury or illness treatment. The company shall also cover expenses related to death, such as cemetery expenses and body repatriation to the home country. What assessors might look for. Again, on the right side, we have listed some common items based on the past award cycles. Please highlight your medical care practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. Here are some of the additional questions that the assessors might ask. If one of your workers becomes a close contact with a COVID-19 positive person, do you provide him with a free COVID test to ensure that he is safe? What happens when your employees contracted with COVID-19? Do you have an isolation room or quarantine facilities for them to protect the rest of the workers? 1.3.2 Occupational Safety Policy, Procedures and Guidelines. This subcriterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to prepare, document, deploy and update policies, procedures, guidelines, and special instructions related to occupational safety on the job sites. The assessors would like to see that you identify potential hazards and threats, conduct risk assessments, and have the right controls in place to mitigate the risk and impact. Participating companies shall take advantage of the international standards, best practices, and local regulations to ensure compliance with relevant occupational safety policies and the provision of a work environment that is hazard, accidents, and injury-free. Companies from different industries may implement different occupational, health, and safety systems. Many adopted international standards such as ISO 45001 or OSHA's 18001, while others follow the International Labor Organization's OSH guidelines. Please highlight your occupational safety and health practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. 1.3.3 Occupational Health and Safety Training and Awareness. This subcriterion is not about the regular management and soft skills training carried out by your training or HR department. The focus here is on occupational health and safety training and awareness. This subcriterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to conduct training and awareness sessions to all labor groups on the policy, procedures, guidelines, best practices, and instructions related to occupational health and safety to avoid hazards and accidents. Occupational health and safety awareness shall be carried out through training sessions, toolbox, daily and regular briefing meetings. All training and awareness records and documents shall be maintained in files. Training sessions may cover important subjects such as hygiene practices, handling biological and chemical hazards, asbestos, confined spaces, working at heights, welding and electrical work, excavation, concrete works, and dealing with manufacturing or construction equipment and lifting gears and trucks, etc. What assessors might look for. Different companies may have different practices. We have listed some common items based on the past award cycles on the right side. Depending on your industry and nature of the business, please highlight your occupational health and safety training and awareness practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence, such as documents, forms, training attendance, certificates, pictures, or videos, etc. Here are some of the additional questions that the assessors might ask. During COVID-19, How do you train and create awareness for your employees on how to wash hands, how to wear the mask properly, how to handle and dispose of the medical waste? 1.3.4 Safety Tools. Workers and employees need to use the right tools and equipment to carry out their jobs safely and successfully. This sub-criterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to provide all necessary machines, equipment, and tools needed to deploy their occupational health and safety policy, procedures, guidelines, or instructions at the job sites. This may include the provision of fire extinguishers, safety equipment, ropes, chains, ladders, scaffolds, ropes, storage areas, water coolers, first aid kits, protection and safety screens, personnel protective equipment, PPE, such as masks, gloves, safety belts, shoes, vests, goggles, hats, etc. Again, each company may have its unique practice when it comes to safety tools. The list on the right side is not a standard checklist, but a list of potential safety tools and equipment that apply to different industries. If the laborers are working in the construction industry, then helmet, gloves, safety boots, and fall protection equipment might be needed. If the workers are working in the factory, with noise and dust, then earplugs and masks will become essential. If the cleaning staff working in a hospital, then medial PPE, such as N95 masks, isolation gowns, and medical gloves, might be used. Please also highlight your business practices on how to handle safety tools and equipment planning, procurement, inventory, distribution, and replacement in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. 1.4 Laborers' Security. This sub-criteria address the importance for the participating companies to provide security to all categories and levels of workforces by securing adequate systems, facilities, and infrastructure to ensure free of hazards, threats, security accidents, and theft. Provide security resources, such as machines, equipment, technology, storage, and adequate housing. 50 points are equally distributed to cover the following two key elements: 1.4.1 Labor Camp Security and 1.4.2 Job Security. We shall look into each of the above key elements to see what it covers and what assessors might look for. So, in Criteria 1.4 Labor Security, what will you focus on? And what would assessors look for? 1.4.1 Labor Camp Security. This sub-criterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to provide secured labor camp facilities, services, and infrastructure as per international standards, local laws, and regulations. The company shall continuously monitor the level of security services to ensure timely notification to management and local police or authorities and take necessary actions in the event of a security breach. Additionally, the labor camp shall be controlled via security systems, with cameras and security officers controlling entrances to the labor camp via e-gates entrance cards, or the presence of security officers to prevent unauthorized persons from entering and to protect staff, their property, and assets. So, what assessors might look for in this area? The assessors may like to see if you have the updated security policy, procedures, and guidelines in place. The assessors would like to check the effectiveness of your security policy implementation. They may also want to know, how long do you maintain the CCTV recording? And who has the access to the security camera and recording? Do you provide your employees with storage space and lockers for personal belongings? They may also ask, during the pandemic, did you implement additional preventive actions, such as entrance temperature check, in your labor camp access? Please highlight your labor camp security practices in your award submission supported by the most relevant evidence. 1.4.2 Job Security. This sub-criterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to protect laborers' rights and take all necessary actions to ensure job security. We understand that no business can guarantee job security for every employee. However, companies shall carry out all necessary actions to protect laborers' rights and provide job security to retain skilled and talented employees. If the employer terminates the fixed-term contracts, the proper notice shall be given. A minimum of 14 days notice during probation and 30 days after probation. The company shall permit the employee 1 day of unpaid leave per week during the notice period to search for a new job. The employer has the right to dismiss employees due to legitimate and justified reasons based on the company's disciplinary code of conduct after verbal and written warnings and following the relevant UAE labor law. However, it shall always try to minimize the negative effect on those employees. The company has no right to lay off employees due to illegitimate reasons such as temporary sickness, work injury, pregnancy, maternity leave, family reasons, etc. In such cases, the company shall compensate the employee for unlawful termination. Based on the new labor law, the concept of redundancy is now expressly recognized as a valid reason for termination if the employer is bankrupt or insolvent, or there are economic or exceptional reasons. Because redundancy will affect all employees and their families, therefore, it shall always be handled with extra care. So what assessors might look for in this area? Here are some examples of good practices we have encountered during the previous award cycles. For example, in the construction industry, the laborers are working mainly on projects. Once the construction project is finished after a few years, most of the laborers will have no work, unless there are new projects ready to shift to. So in such cases, some companies introduce job seekers assistance programs to help their qualified workers to find new jobs. The HR director may contact other HR managers in the same industry to inform them that in 3 or 4 months, there will be 350 construction workers who will finish the Expo project and be ready to be placed on new projects. Do you have vacancies for them? If so, our HR team could facilitate their job placement and transfer. To ensure long-term job security, some companies created career paths for their labor force. Those companies will train, reskill, and qualify those unskilled laborers to obtain the necessary competencies for certain new jobs. Thus, they will be able to find new job opportunities in the future with other employers or when going back home. Through the Career Development Program, many supervisors and senior technicians are promoted from within the company. Assessors may also ask additional questions, such as, how do you reward your long-serving employees? The pandemic had a major impact on many industries, like travel and tourism, restaurants, services, etc. What impact did COVID-19 have on your employees' job security? What are the new measures taken by the company when facing difficult decisions on right-sizing? Again, please highlight your specific job security practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. 1.5 Recruitment and Wages. This sub-criteria address the importance for the participating companies to prepare, document, approve, review, and develop a specific policy or strategy for recruitment, wages, and employment benefits to cover different types and levels of skilled and unskilled laborers and technicians. 50 points are equally distributed to cover the following 2 key elements. 1.5.1 Job recruitment. 1.5.2 Wages, benefits and incentives. We shall look into each of the above key elements to see what it covers and what assessors might look for. So in Criteria 1.5, Recruitment and Wages, what will you focus on? And what would assessors look for? 1.5.1 Job recruitment. This sub-criterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to prepare, document, approve, review, and develop recruitment and selection policies and strategies to create job opportunities for job seekers including laborers. Companies shall provide them with the right to apply for jobs appropriate for their skills and encourage internal recruitment, job rotation, and promotion. In addition, companies shall demonstrate neutrality and fairness by avoiding discrimination based on race, gender, color, religion, national origin, ethnic origin, or disability during the recruitment and selection process. They should avoid unethical behavior, particularly when bringing laborers from outside the country or through recruitment agencies. Regular assessment and compliance audits may be carried out to evaluate the recruitment agency's performance. So, what assessors might look for or ask in the job recruitment area? They might want to know: how often do you review your recruitment and selection policies and procedures? Have you amended or replaced existing employment contracts or recruitment policy documents based on the updated UAE labor law? How do you ensure part-time, temporary, and flexible working arrangements will be incorporated into your HR policy? Do you have clear job descriptions and requirements for all your job vacancies? When you have a job opening, do you focus on external recruitment or use internal recruitment and promotion from within? Do you consider people of determination in your recruitment whenever applicable? How do you provide older employees with equal opportunities? Please highlight your recruitment practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. 1.5.2 Wages, Benefits and Incentives. This sub-criterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to prepare, document, approve, review, and develop comprehensive policy or strategy for laborers' wages, benefits, and incentives, complying with the labor law and minimum wage. Companies shall provide employees with competitive and fair compensation and benefits packages in line with the industry norm. The monthly salaries and overtime payments for all employees shall be transferred on time via the WPS system as per the government rules and regulations. The salaries may be paid in UAE dirhams or the currency agreed in the employment contract. In addition, in case of company bankruptcy, closure, or insolvency, laborers have the right to receive their full wages and benefits. So in this section, what the assessors might look for or focus on. For example, the assessors may ask: do you have a comprehensive wages, benefits, and incentives policy and procedures in practice for your full-time, part-time, and flexible work employees? How do you ensure that the wages, benefits, and incentives are competitive, not the lowest in the industry? How do you ensure the new cap on overtime hours and the changes to the calculation of overtime pay are reflected in your company policy documents and practices based on the latest labor law? Do you have hazard pay or relevant benefits for your pandemic frontline workers? Do you pay the annual leave salaries before the employee's departure for their annual leave? Based on the new labor law, do you settle the end-of-service entitlements within 14 days from the termination date? During COVID-19 pandemic, did your organization take special measures, like unpaid leave or temporary reduction of salary, to avoid job cuts? Unlike the first criteria, essential fundamentals, which mainly covers the critical hard factors, such as policies, recruitment, facilities, security, health and safety. The second criteria, culture and work environment, is more focused on the soft factors, which cover labor relations, communication and feedback, justice and transparency, creativity and innovation, and finally, the rules and regulations. Based on the findings from previous award cycles, the two common areas that most participating companies face challenges are the 2.2 communication and feedback and 2.4 creativity and innovation. In the area of creativity and innovation, even 5-star companies did not score very high. This is not a surprise, as innovation is still a new practice, especially in labor-intensive industries. Unlike the high-tech companies and government agencies, labor-intensive private sector companies are more focused on operations and market share. They do not necessarily have the dedicated funding and resources to focus on innovation. Let's move to the first sub-criteria under culture and work environment. 2.1 Labor Relations. This sub-criteria address the importance for the participating companies to commit to the establishment of a work environment with excellent relations between laborers and management, and amongst different categories and levels of laborers. 50 points are equally distributed to cover the following 3 key elements. 2.1.1 Non-discrimination, 2.1.2 Work environment, and 2.1.3 Complaints and Grievance. We shall look into each of the above key elements to see what it covers and what assessors might look for. So in Criteria 2.1, Labor Relations, what will you focus on? And what would assessors look for? 2.1.1 Non-discrimination. This subcriterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to develop, approve, communicate, implement, and review non-discrimination policies. We are very happy to see that the non-discrimination article is now added to the recently updated UAE labor law, published in February 2022. Based on the relevant governmental laws and regulations, the participating company shall protect all employees from discrimination in the workplace and specifically prohibits discrimination on the grounds of race, color, gender, religion, national origin, social origin, and disability that would impair equal opportunities for an employee or prejudice an employee from gaining or continuing employment and other development opportunities. Sexual harassment, bullying, verbal, physical, or psychological violence towards an employee are prohibited by their employer, supervisor, colleagues, or those working with them. To ensure a harmonized and positive corporate culture, all employees shall be treated fairly. Non-discrimination should be practiced by everyone throughout the organization, including all work locations and labor accommodation. Therefore, participating companies shall not employ or promote anyone who practices any type of discrimination. What assessors might look for? Assessors will look at the non-discrimination policies and practices in your company. They may also conduct interviews and focus groups to talk to different categories of employees, such as frontline staff, laborers, pregnant staff, etc. Again, please highlight your non-discrimination business practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. 2.1.2 Work environment. This subcriterion is focusing on creating a happy and healthy working environment. It addresses the importance for the participating companies to provide a work environment that is safe and free of viruses, hazards, disturbance, noise, smell, pollution, and provide clean drinking water. The new labor law stipulates that an employee may leave employment immediately and without notice if there is a serious danger in the workplace that threatens the safety or health of the employee, provided the employer was aware of the risk and took no action to eliminate the danger. Companies must comply with government rules and regulations and the UAE labor law, such as daily working hours, overtime, weekly rest days, annual leave, and midday break during the hot summer months, etc. For example, do you strictly follow the summer midday break rule? Where will your employees stay during the midday break? Will they have access to healthy drinking water on site? Some construction companies will have a heat stress room on the project site during summer to take care of their laborers in case of heat stroke. Finally, the participating company is committed to providing temporary workers and employees with flexible working arrangements, the same work environment and treatment as permanent workers. For example, if you are providing refreshments during summer for your full-time employees, will the temporary and flexible workers also have the same? During the COVID-19 pandemic, companies shall strictly follow government and relevant authorities' guidelines and protocols for safely reopen of the business and their operations. Please highlight your work environment business practices in your award submission supported by the most relevant evidence. 2.1.3 Complaints and Grievance. This subcriterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to collect, manage, and resolve complaints and grievances received from all categories of laborers before reaching the concerned governmental authorities or courts. Based on the updated labor law, companies shall implement a grievance policy to facilitate employee complaints of discrimination, bullying, and harassment. The participating company shall be committed to the development of an open, transparent, and documented staff complaints and grievances system and procedure. This system shall be communicated and explained to all staff members, including the laborers. What assessors might look for. Assessors would like to know: do you have a comprehensive complaints and grievance policy and system in place? How was it implemented? How do you ensure that your employees will feel comfortable and safe to make a complaint against their manager, supervisor, or coworkers? Do they have the confidence that once their complaint or grievance is made, an independent committee or authorized team will evaluate the case and take necessary actions accordingly? Will the employees receive notifications and updates on the resolution or feedback? Or do you have a dusted compliant box in the hallway, which has not been opened for years? Participating companies must maintain records of all complaints and grievances to review, analyze, and take corrective actions and improve the relevant policies and regulations. Please highlight your business practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence, such as sample complaints received and sample complaints and grievance resolution. The second subcriteria is communication and feedback. It addresses the importance for the participating organizations to commit to communicate and listen to their people, and in particular, laborers, in order to maintain good relations and cohesion, ensure continuous laborers' involvement, listen to their opinion and provide appraisal and encouragement. 78% of employees in a recent international survey said improving communication and employee engagement should be a higher priority for their companies. From our previous award cycles, we found out that the participating companies did not score well in this critical area. The 50 points are equally distributed to cover the following 4 key elements. 2.2.1 Communication channels and dialogue. 2.2.2 Performance appraisal and recognition. 2.2.3 Involvement and freedom of opinion, and 2.2.4 Internal and external audit. We shall look into each of the above key elements to see what it covers and what assessors might look for. In Criteria 2.2, Communication and Feedback, what will you focus on? And what would assessors look for? 2.2.1 Communication channels and dialogue. This subcriterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to develop and implement effective employee communication plans, policies, systems, and procedures. Companies shall provide different communication and dialogue channels with various employee categories to ensure work-related information, data, and performance expectations are clearly disseminated. The communication channels may vary to include face-to-face dialogue, regular meetings, memos, emails, phone calls, etc. The effectiveness of the communication and channels used shall be continuously monitored and enhanced. Participating companies shall also provide laborers the opportunity to discuss staff affairs, such as career plans, benefits, employment conditions, promotions, and staff-related company policies. Assessors might ask questions such as: which channels and methods do you use to communicate to employees on how they are going to be affected by the new labor law? Which language is most effective when communicating with the blue-collar employees in your company? How do you ensure that all employees, including those on leave, were updated with the changes to the new working week starting Monday before implementing such changes? How frequently do your management and leadership team communicate with your frontline employees? How do you ensure that the communication channels used are accessible by all targeted employees? How did your company ensure effective communication with employees during the COVID-19 pandemic? Please highlight your business practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. 2.2.2 Performance appraisal and recognition. This subcriterion addresses the importance for the participating companies to commit to the development and implementation of documented policies, systems, and procedures to fairly and effectively evaluate, recognize, and motivate different levels of laborers. Participating companies shall adopt best practices when implementing approved appraisal and recognition systems to increase productivity, enhance staff satisfaction, welfare, and develop their knowledge and job skills. From our experience, many companies do have performance appraisals in place for their managerial and non-labor staff. However, when it comes to performance evaluation of the workers and laborers, many only depend on the supervisor's or foreman's feedback, which could be biased. Assessors might ask questions such as, how do you choose the performance evaluation criteria? How do you ensure that performance appraisal will be carried out fairly and transparently? Once the performance gaps are identified, what do you do? Do you have a personal development plan for each employee? Which type of performance rewards and consequences do you apply after the performance appraisal? What happens to your top performers? Do they get recognition or promotion? What happens to your employees who do not perform well on their jobs? Do you provide them with specific training and coaching? Or do you transfer them to other jobs? Please highlight your business practices in your award submission supported by the most relevant evidence. 2.2.3 Involvement and freedom of opinion. This subcriterion focuses on the importance for the participating companies to ensure that all their departments are continuously interacting with all labor groups by sharing with them information, company plans, functional objectives, projects, policies, etc. Provide employees the freedom to express their opinion, needs, and expectations that will assist the companies in developing their further direction, objectives, policies, and systems to enhance staff trust and increase satisfaction. It is also a good practice to involve concerned staff members in work-related feedback and decision-making. A new study by Harvard Business Review found that organizations will be more successful when frontline workers are empowered to make important decisions at the moment. However, the reality is, few are equipping their workers with the resources to do so. Companies shall provide laborers the right to select representatives, gather and communicate their concerns, opinions, suggestions, and ideas peacefully. For example, a company with a large workforce may let the employees select their representatives to participate in the focus groups, to discuss the renovation and enhancement of their labor camp facilities, or discuss the suggested weekly menu for their cafeteria. So what assessors might look for? They may ask questions such as, how do you share your company plans, objectives, projects, new policies, etc. with your employees? How do you ensure freedom of opinion and expression in your workplace? How do you involve your frontline workers and laborers in decision-making? Do you practice an open-door policy? In your company, do you have a whistleblowing system that all employees could access? One of the 5-star companies we assessed deployed a 24/7 whistleblowing hotline that can be accessed by employees anonymously to report malpractice and unlawful or unethical behavior. Please highlight your business practices in your award submission supported by the most relevant evidence. 2.2.4 Internal and External Audit. This subcriterion focuses on the importance for the participating companies to assess the level of implementation and compliance with the company policies, procedures, and systems. Regular internal and external audits shall be carried out by qualified internal or outsourced external independent and credible auditors. Companies may conduct audits on their HR policies and systems, OHS compliance, and inspections on the labor camp, transportation, and facilities. As explained earlier, they may also carry out audits on their suppliers and outsourced services providers. Furthermore, the participating company must maintain internal and external audit reports and implement necessary corrective actions in case of non-compliance with the regulation, rules, and requirements as addressed in company policies, procedures, and systems. Please highlight your business practices in your award submission supported by the most relevant evidence, such as audit system and process, internal and external audit reports, and corrective actions. The third subcriteria is justice and transparency. This subcriteria address the importance for the participating companies to ensure a collaborative and transparent working environment among the various labor categories to enhance employee engagement, productivity, corporate stability, and prosperity. 50 points are equally distributed to cover the following 4 key elements. 2.3.1 Justice and fair treatment. 2.3.2 Transparency and openness in decision-making. 2.3.3 Freedom of worship, and 2.3.4 Diversity. We shall look into each of the above key elements to see what it covers and what assessors might look for. So, in Criteria 2.3, Justice and Transparency, what will you focus on? And what would assessors look for? 2.3.1 Justice and fair treatment. This subcriterion focuses on the importance for the participating companies to interact with employees, especially the different categories of laborers, with justice, honesty, and equality. As a participating company, how do you ensure fairness when assigning tasks, appraising performance, providing learning, development, and career advancement opportunities for laborers? For example, do you assign difficult jobs or tasks to be performed in a tough environment, always to your non-favorable employees? Does the promotion and learning opportunities always go to the staff member from the same hometown as the boss? How do you ensure justice and fairness in your laborers' performance appraisal? Is it based on merit or favoritism? In addition, companies need to ensure equality in job grades, wages, benefits, and rewards to those employees that carry out identical jobs, taking into account the difference in work experience, without preference of one's nationality, origins, religion, etc. over the others. For example, based on the updated labor law, there should be equal pay for men and women who carry out the same work. Please highlight your business practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. 2.3.2 Transparency and openness in decision-making. Workplace transparency is proven to breed long-term success, and openness in decision-making creates a sense of belonging. This subcriterion focuses on the importance for the participating companies to be transparent with their employees, and especially the different categories of laborers. The company shall provide employees with work and employee welfare-related information and data. For example, based on the updated labor law, information regarding maternity and parental leave, compassionate leave, study leave, etc. shall be shared with all concerned employees. In addition, to ensure transparency, corporate performance and employees' performance results shall also be shared. For example, many companies conducted annual employee satisfaction surveys. However, the survey results and findings were never shared with the employees. Instead, they are kept by the HR department as confidential information. Increased corporate transparency creates trust between employers and employees, helps improve morale, lowers job-related stress, which is especially important during the COVID-19 pandemic, and boosts performance. To increase transparency and employee happiness, one of the 4-star companies from the second award cycle, their CEO and leadership team members, visit each of their departments and work sites every 3 months to share with the employees the latest update on company strategy, performance, and future projects. So the laborers will know, after the current building project is complete, they will be able to transfer to the new Expo project. To strengthen labor relations, participating companies shall grant their employees the right to discuss the terms and conditions of employment contracts to avoid confusion and costly labor disputes. Furthermore, for better employee engagement and happiness, companies shall also provide employees with the freedom to express opinions and empower them to make decisions. For smarter decisions, empower your employees. Research shows empowerment leads to increased employee accountability, faster problem resolution, higher quality customer service, and motivated employees. Please highlight your business practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. 2.3.3 Freedom of Worship. This subcriterion focuses on the importance for the participating companies to grant staff and diverse labor groups the freedom to practice their religious beliefs and carry out the religious ritual. Companies shall provide access to on-site or off-site worship facilities and allow employees to celebrate religious holidays. For example, some companies have a special prayer room on the worksite and labor accommodation for employees to practice their religion. Others provide a day off on specific dates, so their employees could celebrate religious holidays, such as Christmas or Diwali. Please highlight your company practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. 2.3.4 Diversity. Dubai is a multicultural international hub, with more than 200 nationalities living peacefully in the same city. Most companies here also have a diverse workforce. This subcriterion focuses on the importance for the participating companies to create harmony by respecting all types of laborers from different nationalities and regions. By providing them with equal job opportunities and not restricting recruitment on a certain nationality, country, or religion. Diversity is an essential prerequisite in building expertise, enabling skills and knowledge transfer, thus enhancing the value of the individual and improving staff capability. International studies found diverse teams can solve problems faster than cognitively similar people, and workplace diversity leads to better decision-making, employee retention, and innovation. Most of the frontline jobs, such as cashier, cleaner, driver, etc., can be carried out by employees from different countries and can be both male and female. However, some specific jobs in some industries may have certain constraints. For example, construction workers mostly will be male instead of female. Recruitment for construction workers and laborers by private companies will mostly from the traditional labor markets, such as India, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and the Philippines, etc., to meet the skill and language requirements within the budget constraints. In such a case, the company shall provide their justified reasons in their award submission. However, if the recruitment has to be done in one country, to improve diversity, the company shall try its best to attract employees from various regions of the same country. Please highlight in your award submission, how does your company doing its best to create diversity in the workplace and make all employees feel accepted and valued. 2.4 Creativity and Innovation. This subcriteria address the importance for the participating companies to create an innovative and creative work environment enjoyed by all employees. The company shall also encourage employees' creativity and innovation to improve corporate performance, maintain competitiveness, and sustain growth. When Taqdeer Award was first introduced in 2016, most of the participating companies did not have any systems or practices in the area of creativity and innovation. Only a few companies implemented suggestion schemes, and most creative ideas and suggestions were made by supervisory and managerial staff. However, the situation improved a lot in the subsequent cycles. We started to see more and more companies realize the value of innovation and started to put systems and take actions to tap into employees' creativity. One of the participating companies changed its organization structure after the first award cycle by creating an innovation department. They also appointed the first Chief Innovation Officer in their industry. 50 points are equally distributed to cover the following three key elements. 2.4.1 Creative Suggestions, 2.4.2 Rewarding of Creativity, and 2.4.3 Innovative Work Approaches. We shall look into each of the above key elements to see what it covers and what assessors might look for. So, in Criteria 2.4, Creativity and Innovation, what will you focus on? And what would assessors look for? 2.4.1 Creative Suggestions. This subcriterion focuses on the importance for the participating companies to maintain a system, policy, and procedure for receiving creative suggestions from all employees, including the laborers. Participating companies shall distribute and communicate the channels and methods used to receive, evaluate, and implement suggestions. In addition, they shall encourage and motivate laborers to use the suggestion system as one of the important effective communication channels between management and laborers. Finally, the company shall also maintain a list of received and implemented suggestions. So what assessors might look for? They may ask questions like, which kind of creative suggestion systems, policies, and procedures do you have in your company? How do you choose the suggestion evaluation criteria? Once suggestions are received, who is responsible for the suggestion review and evaluation? Could you please share some sample creative suggestions implemented in the last 18 months? Did your organization successfully adopt any creative suggestions from blue-collar employees in fighting COVID-19? Please highlight your business practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. 2.4.2 Rewarding of Creativity. This subcriterion focuses on the importance for the participating companies to create a culture of innovation by maintaining a system, policy, and procedure for staff recognition and reward. The method used for recognizing and rewarding creativity and innovation shall be communicated to all employees, including laborers. Participating companies shall also integrate suggestion and reward systems to motivate laborers to think creatively in enhancing job skills and work methods. Finally, the companies shall maintain lists of rewarded people and benefits applied. For example, one of the construction workers noticed that many of his colleagues suffered from back injuries due to carrying heavy bricks on project sites. After talking to coworkers and with additional research, he invented a simple, yet effective tool to carry and lay bricks without hurting the back. The company helped him refine the tool and adapted it to all project sites. This worker has been rewarded $20,000 for his creative contribution. So what assessors might look for? They may ask additional questions such as, what happens to the employees who submitted winning creative suggestions? Which kind of recognition and rewards do you provide to the employees with implemented ideas? How many laborers have been rewarded in the past 24 months? Please highlight your business practices in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. 2.4.3 Innovative Work Approaches. This subcriterion focuses on the extent whether the participating companies have benefited from the suggestions and reward systems, policies, and procedures in developing innovative work systems, processes, and approaches. Companies shall demonstrate the relationship between the suggestions received from different laborers groups and the development or enhancement made. Companies shall also maintain lists of processes, policies, and procedures developed or improved, as well as benefits gained in cycle time reduction, resources utilization, and improved customer satisfaction as the result of received suggestions. Continuing on the previous example, by introducing the new bricks carrying tool, the construction company improved their work efficiency and reduced staff injuries. Please highlight your business practices on innovative work approaches in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence. The final element in Criteria 2 is the rules and regulations. This subcriteria address the importance for the participating companies to commit to the management rules and regulations that are aligned with relevant local and international laws and regulations regarding different labor categories. 50 points are equally distributed to cover the following two key elements: 2.5.1 Residency Sponsorship and 2.5.2 Human Trafficking. We shall look into each of the above key elements to see what it covers and what assessors might look for. So in Criteria 2.5, rules and regulations, what will you focus on? And what would assessors look for? 2.5.1 Residency Sponsorship. This sub-criterion focuses on the importance for the participating companies to allow different laborers categories to shift from one company to another when the employment contract expires, the employee resigns, or the company failed to deliver its obligations to its workers. In such cases, the worker shall be granted permission to move to another job without prior approval of his or her original company. Companies shall obtain work permits and residency sponsorship as per government requirements before onboarding new employees starting work. For current employees, sponsored by the company, the HR and Admin Department shall timely renew the employee's residency visa and Emirates ID. Based on the labor law, employers are expressly prohibited from retaining an employee's passport. However, there is some common practice in certain industries that companies provide special legal documents safekeeping services for their employees staying in the labor camp. To avoid them misplacing or losing their passports or other important documents in their rooms or common space. In such a case, documents were kept on behalf of the employees with their full consent. They can request and receive back their legal documents anytime, without any approval or delay. During the past 2 years, due to the pandemic, many employees who finished employment contracts or planning to go on annual leave but could not travel due to the COVID-19 travel restrictions. So, what are the new measures implemented by the company during the COVID-19 to facilitate and provide maximum flexibility to the employees? Please highlight your business practices in your award submission supported by the most relevant evidence. 2.5.2 Human Trafficking. This sub-criterion focuses on the importance for the participating company's commitment to avoiding human trafficking or recruiting laborers for illegal purposes, according to local and international laws and regulations. In addition, companies shall not employ laborers, regardless of their nationalities and skills, before transferring their residency. And to ensure that laborers have valid work permits and residency visas when they are on board. In addition, the company shall make sure that recruitment agents do not force laborers to pay a large sum of fees to come and work in Dubai. Generally, participating companies are doing well in this criteria element. Please highlight your business practices in your award submission supported by the most relevant evidence. Finally, we reached the last and the most important criterion, labor results. This criterion focuses on achieved results from the first and second main criteria. It has equal weights of total scores of both criteria 1 and 2. A list of labor results was selected and implemented to align with the enablers, criteria 1 and criteria 2. Distinguished companies in labor care and protection shall achieve outstanding and sustainable results that meet or exceed the laborer's needs and expectations. The 500 points allocated are equally distributed between laborers' perception measures and the labor performance indicators. (3.1) Labor perception, which covers 250 points. In this section, we measure how the laborers perceive the company and how satisfied are they with their employer. Perception can be obtained from various methods, such as laborers' opinion surveys, focus groups, assessments, interviews, and complaints and recognition documents. The most commonly used and also recommended method by the award office is the employee satisfaction or engagement survey, which is usually conducted annually. To align with the Taqdeer award framework and criteria, participating companies should design and update their employee perception surveys system to cover key elements of the Taqdeer award criteria and sub-criteria elements, and be able to filter and segment the survey results for laborers or blue-collar employees. To make it easier for the participating companies, in the next 2 slides, we listed a selected number of measures covering key subcriteria elements from Criteria 1 and 2. However, please keep in mind that these are not standard checklists. Instead, these items are a pool of suggested potential perception elements that participating companies may choose for the employee perception surveys based on their relevancy to the participating company and industry. Participating companies may need to measure their employee and laborer perception and satisfaction on their public facilities, services and entertainment, housing and living facilities, medical insurance and healthcare services, communication and dialogue channels, transportation, training and development, occupational safety equipment, tools and systems, overtime, involvement in decision-making, complaint system, performance appraisal system, rewarding system, etc. Participating companies need to make sure to include as many relevant laborer perception elements from the suggested list or outside of the list in their perception survey as possible. Companies that scored higher in the labor perception section tend to have better designed employee survey questionnaires covering most of the relevant laborer perception elements with predefined targets and segmented results. Please present your labor results in relevant charts and graphs in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence, such as survey questionnaire, sample completed surveys, and survey analysis reports, etc. 3.2 Labor Performance Indicators. These are internal measures used by the company to monitor, understand, predict, and improve its performance related to employee relations and welfare. They provide a clear understanding of the implementation and impact of corporate strategy related to laborers and the supporting processes and policies. Again, to make it easier for the participating companies, in the next 2 slides, we listed a selected number of performance measures covering key subcriteria elements from Criteria 1 and 2. Once again, these are not standard checklists. Instead, these items are a pool of potential measures that participating companies may use to measure labor care performance based on their relevancy to the participating company and industry. Again, to make it easier for the participating companies, in the next 2 slides, we listed a selected number of performance measures covering key subcriteria elements from Criteria 1 and 2. Once again, these are not standard checklists. Instead, these items are a pool of potential measures that participating companies may use to measure labor care performance based on their relevancy to the participating company and industry. Companies that scored higher in the Labor Performance Indicators section tend to have more relevant labor care performance measures with predefined targets and segmented results. Please present your labor results in relevant charts and graphs in your award submission, supported by the most relevant evidence such as KPIs and performance reports. So in Criterion 3, Labor Results, what will you focus on? And what would assessors look for? What are the characteristics of labor results, and what will the assessors look for? Participating companies shall select a set of relevant measures and provide relevant data, charts, or KPI reports for the labor results. Performance targets shall be set in advance. Performance data from the past 2 to 3 years shall be reported. Comparing performance with the past 2 to 3 years shall show positive or negative trends. How frequently do you measure the performance? What are the measurement methods? Comparison between actual performance and target. Finally, results are appropriately segmented to provide meaningful insights. (3.1) Labor Perception Results Sample Charts. From these sample charts, we can see 2 years' results from the Employee Satisfaction Survey. Chart 1 displayed the target and achieved results for each year and showed a positive trend of performance. Chart 2, on the lower left, displayed laborers' satisfaction results, segmented by Criterion 2, related key survey perception elements. Chart 3, on the lower right, displayed laborers' satisfaction results, segmented by Criterion 1, related key survey perception elements. .2 Labor Performance Indicators Results Sample Charts. From these sample charts, we can see 2 years' results from the key labor performance indicators. Chart 1, on the left, displayed percent of laborers rewarded annually, with targets, and achieved results for each year, and showed a positive trend of performance. Chart 2, on the right, displayed percent of laborers turnover, with targets, and achieved results for each year, and showed a negative trend of performance. In this case, reduction of turnover is a positive performance. Chart 3 displayed segmented performance results, with targets for 4 of the labor communication and feedback measures. This is the end of the Taqdeer Award Framework and Criteria session. Please continue to the next session to know more about the Taqdeer Award application guidelines. To join the current cycle of the Taqdeer Award, please visit taqdeeraward.ae or contact the award office. If you require professional advice or technical consultation on the Taqdeer Award Framework, Criteria, and award submission, please feel free to contact Sue Kanakri via email su@tpidubai.com. Thank you for attending the Taqdeer Award video session, and have a great day.